The Milky Way had been off-limits for 8,000 cycles. Everyone in the Galactic Council knew that fact the way children knew their alphabets. It was taught in mandatory school programs on every member world, reinforced through solemn ceremonies of remembrance, punctuated by the booming voice of the Grand Arbiter declaring that some rules could never be broken. But nobody truly remembered why the Milky Way was so thoroughly forbidden. Most believe it was due to some dreadful cosmic anomaly or monstrous civilization. Others suspected political machinations from a distant past. Very few dared to question it openly. Captain Veer Tamashi, however, had grown tired of never receiving any explanation beyond, "It is forbidden." As he stepped out of the council's central hall with a mix of defiance and excitement in his chest, he reminded himself that he was not alone. His crew, scattered through the station's corridors, waited for him to confirm whether or not the council would relent and finally allow a sanctioned survey of the Milky Way. Of course, Veer already knew the answer before the session had ended. The council had refused. Again, he stopped near a large mural depicting the star charts of the Andromeda Galaxy. Tiny lights blinked, representing the many worlds that had joined the Alliance over the centuries. An entire civilization spanning hundreds of star systems, thousands of inhabited planets, all intricately connected. And somewhere, far beyond those glowing specks, lay the empty gulf of intergalactic space, leading to the barred spiral arms of the Milky Way. Lana Reeves, his first officer, approached. Her posture was tense, as though expecting news that wouldn't be pleasant. She had accompanied him to these council sessions for years. Judging by the tightness in her jaw, she knew exactly what had transpired. "I take it we have yet another denial?" she asked in a low voice. "We do," Veer replied with a small, bitter smile. "The ban stands. No reasons given, no clarifications offered. Just the same old rhetoric. Danger, tradition, the highest level classification. You'd think after 8,000 cycles, they'd come up with a more convincing explanation." Lana let out a resigned sigh. "So what now?" Veer glanced around, noting a few suspicious eyes from robed council officials. He lowered his voice. "You know what? I've waited long enough. If they won't authorize the expedition, I'll just have to do it myself." Her eyes widened. "We could face prison. Or worse. I am aware. But this is bigger than me or my career. There has to be a reason that Galaxy is off limits. I'm tired of the ignorance. Aren't you?" She exhaled heavily, then nodded. "I am. The whole crew is." They walked together down a side corridor where holographic banners displayed the illustrious history of the Council. Treaties signed, wars averted, new species welcomed. It all looked so noble. Yet beneath that veneer, Veer felt a rising sense of frustration. The Council's stance on the Milky Way wasn't merely draconian. It stifled the very curiosity that had led so many species to flourish. "Let's meet the others in Docking Bay 9, Veer said, turning sharply. "We're leaving now, before they stop us." Lana didn't protest further. In the short turbolift ride down, she stared at him, perhaps trying to gauge if he was entirely sure. He offered her a reassuring nod. This was no whim. He had been planning this for a long time, quietly purchasing supplementary fuel cells, forging alternative registry codes, and calibrating the advanced scanning arrays aboard his ship, the Boundless Curiosity. It was a vessel designed for deep space exploration, not stealth missions, but he and his crew had made modifications for just such an eventuality. They emerged into the bustling docking area. Crews from dozens of species came and went, some on routine merchant runs, others on diplomatic assignments. He spotted a tall reptilian figure waiting by the Boundless Curiosity's airlock. Mako Blackwell, their security chief. Towering at 7 feet and covered in matte black scales, Mako had a booming laugh that echoed across corridors whenever he found something amusing, which happened often. Not so in this moment. His tail swayed anxiously. "Captain," Mako inclined his head. "I assume the Council said no again." Veer didn't break stride. "That's right. We go anyway." Mako grinned, revealing pointed teeth. "Finally. It was getting boring around here. Let's see what's so awful about that spiral galaxy. Might be a good challenge." They boarded the ship. Inside, the command deck hummed with readiness. Rin Torres, the six-finger navigation officer, worked a console that displayed external sensors. Meanwhile, Tara Quinn, the science officer, stood near a luminous display of star maps projected from the overhead unit. Her phosphorescent skin glowed faintly, a constant flux of colors that mirrored her emotional state. Right now, it shimmered with anxious curiosity. Wir nodded agreeing. All systems ready? Rin tapped at the console. Ready, sir. Docking clamps retracted. We can detach on your command. Tara studied her star map. Once we break from station traffic control, we'll have about a 20-minute window before they realize we disabled our transponder. Lana took her station, flipping switches to bring the engines online. Understood. Let's not waste any time. A tremor passed through the hull as the boundless Curiosity lifted free of its moorings. Veer glanced at a small side screen depicting station security. No alarms yet. The ship slid gracefully through the traffic lanes, merging with outbound freighters and passenger vessels. Then, just as they neared the departure corridor, they veered off. In seconds, they shot away from the station, leaving behind the Andromeda Galaxy's central hub. Veer knew it wouldn't be long before they were listed as fugitives, wanted criminals for violating the Council's supreme directive. But for now, exhilaration washed over him. Mako let out a whoop. We did it. We're actually doing this. Rin, more subdued, checked the scanners. They haven't sounded an alarm yet. We should be able to make our quantum jump in about 10 minutes. Once we're out of normal space, they'll have a hard time tracking us. Veer sank into the command chair, heart pounding with anticipation. They were truly embarking on a forbidden journey. The Milky Way was off limits, but they were about to change that. No more half-truths or sealed archives. He refused to let a fear of the unknown stop them. The journey across the void between galaxies was not quick by any conventional sense. Even with quantum entanglement drives, slip-space tunnels, and gravitational wave riders, it took weeks of careful navigation to cross that boundless gulf. They encountered the usual hazards of deep space: microsingularities, stray, cosmic rays, but no monstrous abominations. Every so often, Tara would run another scan, half expecting to discover some cosmic barrier or lethal radiation field. Instead, the readings were unremarkable. During the quiet nights aboard, Veer would gaze out the observation deck. He saw Andromeda, receding behind them, a glorious swirl of stars that had shaped his entire life, and he saw the Milky Way growing steadily ahead. He imagined what secrets that barred galaxy might hold. Perhaps an unknown species with fearsome technology, maybe ruins of an ancient civilization the Council had once crossed. Whatever it was, he intended to bring it to light. His crew adapted to the routine of long-range travel. Lana meticulously updated logs, though she wryly commented each day that these logs would hardly be well received by the Council. Mako spent time calibrating weapons systems, though none of them truly expected to need them in an empty gulf of space. Rin hopped between navigation duties and tinkering with the ship's stealth field generator. Tara grew increasingly intrigued by the faint radio signals that trickled in from the Milky Way's outer edges. When they finally began to approach the spiral arms, the entire crew gathered on the command deck to watch the starfield shift from a distant glow to something far more detailed. There were billions of suns out there, countless planetary systems that no Council expedition had touched for millennia. Veer stood at the central console. Tara, any sign of unusual phenomena? Her skin pulsed with a soft chartreuse, a color he'd learned to interpret as mild excitement. No gravitational anomalies, no bizarre energy bursts, just standard star systems. But there's a faint band of signals. Looks artificial, possibly radio waves on the electromagnetic spectrum. Very archaic, but definitely not natural. Lana leaned in. That's interesting. Archaic in what way? They're similar to the kind of transmissions we'd see from a lower-tier civilization that has discovered radio but hasn't advanced to quantum communication. So, not technologically backward, but not at Council level. Veer nodded suavely. Any indication of hostility or advanced weapon signatures? None from this distance, Tara said. but we'll need to move closer to be sure. They did precisely that, charting a route that wound through the starfields until the signals resolved into discrete broadcasts. Among them was a cluster emanating from one particular star system that, according to the ship's scans, had at least 8 or 9 planets. The third planet from the star gave the strongest reading, covered in swirling clouds, vast oceans, and land masses dotted with glowing clusters of light. Veer felt a thrill at the sight. An oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, Terra reported. It's absolutely brimming with life. Our data suggest billions of sentient beings. Billions on one planet, Mako marveled. They must be small or else very crowded. Are we sure they're not just a network of hive minds? We'll find out, Veer said, a grin tugging at his lips. We came all this way to investigate the unknown. Set a course. Keep the cloaking field at full strength. I want to observe them undetected. They approached carefully, letting the planet's own electromagnetic noise mask their presence. Cameras and scanners soon revealed a civilization that defied simple categorization. These beings, whom initial audio scans suggested called themselves humans, had advanced communications networks, television, radio, internet signals, but they still used combustion engines, fossil fuels, and only had a rudimentary presence beyond their atmosphere. They had satellites orbiting the planet, a few off-world stations, but no significant interplanetary colonization. And yet, they had nuclear weaponry, had harnessed nuclear power, and displayed countless innovations in electronics, computing, and artificial intelligence. The contradictory nature of these humans was startling. They're still waging wars, Lana said, observing some historical data gleaned from open broadcasts. But they also produce remarkable art forms, music, films. They appear simultaneously primitive and sophisticated. And there are so many of them, Terra added, living in enormous cities, billions crammed into a single world. On many council worlds, population is spread across multiple planets. We're flicked through data. They have vehicles that could travel very fast, but they often sit in traffic voluntarily. They invest huge resources in machines of war, but they also run global charitable organizations. It's madness, Mako declared with a half-amused snort. But they seem, well, interesting. Veer nodded, intrigued more than ever. We need closer observation. Let's send a stealth probe. No direct contact yet. Just gather ground-level data so we can figure out if this is in any way related to the reason the Council fears the Milky Way. Perhaps these humans are more advanced than they let on. They deployed the probe, a small, sleek device meant to slip past primitive sensors. It dropped through the planet's upper atmosphere. For a few minutes, everything proceeded smoothly. It streamed back visuals of rolling plains, mountain ranges, networks of roads, and clusters of human settlements. Then, suddenly, alarms blared on the boundless curiosity. What in the? Lana shot upright. Multiple aircraft are converging on the probe's location. They're moving at high velocity, armed with missiles. How did they detect it? That's impossible, Veer snapped. Our cloaking is based on Council stealth technology. They shouldn't have a clue we're here. But the on-screen display was unmistakable. 2 fighter jets had locked onto the probe, moving with predatory precision. One launched a missile, a streak of heat across the azure sky. Veer saw the probe's cameras jerk frantically as the device tried to evade. It was no match. The probe's been hit, Terra said, voice tight. Emergency data burst inbound. Then it's offline. Veer felt his pulse spike. They shot down? A pre-FTL civilization shot down a fully cloaked council-grade drone? That's insane. Mako growled. They've set up a perimeter around the crash site. These humans were expecting us. As if on cue, the ship's sensors shrieked anew. Rin's face paled. Multiple launch detections from that planet. Nuclear missiles targeting our coordinates. Nuclear? How? Lana clenched her fists. No time to wonder. Evasive maneuvers, maximum speed. The boundless curiosity jolted. Engines roaring as run pushed them away from the planet's gravity well. Through the view screen, lines of contrails arced up from the surface, each carrying a nuclear warhead. The first wave missed by a wide margin, but subsequent volleys homed in dangerously close. Veer's heart hammered. Humanity was not only aware of them, they had somehow triangulated the ship's position in orbit despite advanced stealth. This must be the reason the Council banned the galaxy, Mako muttered. But how could these humans even speak to the Council? Before Veer could answer, a crisp voice rang across every frequency, speaking in perfect universal standard, the official language of the Council Alliance. Attention, unauthorized vessel. You have violated Earth-protected space. Prepare to be boarded. No one on the Boundless Curiosity spoke for a moment. Terra's skin flashed to a bright white. Lana whispered, "They're using Council language." "Perfectly. That should take centuries of study, at least." Another impact rattled the hull, though the shields held. "Run. Get us out of here," Veer ordered. "We can't jump to quantum if we're inside the planet's gravity well, so break orbit." "Now." Trying, Ren hissed, his 6 fingers dancing over the controls. "Something's interfering with the propulsion system. I can't spool up the quantum drive." The ship shuddered again, and warning lights flickered across the panels. A bright flash on the view screen revealed 3 sleek black spacecraft, emerging from the planet's upper atmosphere. They were smaller than typical Council cruisers, their lines elegant, almost predatory, as if designed for stealth and speed. "Captain," Terra said quietly, "I'm detecting technology we've never seen. Some of these energy signatures match Council design principles, but others are entirely new." Veer felt dread coil in his stomach. "Open a channel." A woman appeared on the view screen, clad in a severe uniform, dark hair pulled back from a face that looked human enough, if one ignored the calm, predatory intensity in her eyes. "I am Commander Morgan Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet," she announced. "You have violated Directive 7734 of the Galactic Non-Interference Protocol. Shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Veer tried to maintain composure. "Commander Hayes, this is Captain Veer Tamashi of the research vessel Boundless Curiosity from the Andromeda Galaxy. We come in peace. We weren't aware." She cut him off with icy efficiency. "Spare me your excuses, Captain. We've been monitoring Council transmissions for a very long time. We know who you are. Power down or face the consequences." "They shouldn't be able to do this," Lana murmured. "They're not part of the Council, yet they know everything about it." Mako's hands hovered over the weapon controls. "Captain, do we engage?" Veer's instinct screamed that a fight would be disastrous. They had come to explore, not instigate war. "No, do not fire. Commander Hayes, we have no hostile intent. Suddenly, the Boundless Curiosity's lights dimmed. Mako let out a startled roar. "Our weapons are shutting down on their own. I'm locked out of the system." Terra's voice quavered. "I'm reading nanite infiltration in our core processors. They've seized control of our primary functions from within. This is advanced infiltration technology, possibly beyond even the Council's capabilities." Commander Hayes's unyielding gaze remained fixed. "Nanite Swarm was introduced the moment you entered our solar system. This is standard Earth protocol now. Your vital systems will remain online, but weapons and propulsion are under our authority." Veer stared at her, stunned by the magnitude of this revelation. "Who are you people?" She allowed a thin smile. "We're humanity, Captain, the species your Council has been hiding from for 8,000 cycles." Within minutes, the Boundless Curiosity was maneuvered, against its will, toward a location near the planet's satellite, a cold gray sphere humans referred to as the Moon. Cloaking fields parted to reveal a massive structure, Starbase Artemis. The station hovered in lunar orbit, invisible to the ship's sensors until now, shielded by advanced quantum displacement technology. As they drew closer, Veer felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, confusion, awe. The humans had harnessed technologies that even the Council did not widely employ. They docked under guard. A delegation of heavily armed human soldiers escorted Veer and his officers through a maze of corridors into a large chamber that seemed part command center, part research facility. Floor-to-ceiling windows provided a breathtaking view of Earth below, shimmering with city lights in the night. A tall woman with gray hair and dignified features stood at the head of an oval table. "Welcome, Captain Tamashi," she said, her tone formal but not unkind. "I am Director Eliza Kazarian of Earth's Unified Government. This is Dr. Marcus Chun, our lead xenotechnologist. And you already know Commander Hayes." Veer glanced at the ring of humans gathered. "We come in peace," he reiterated. "We had no idea humanity was capable of intercepting us like this." The Council's official stance is that Earth was never to be contacted. They said it was too dangerous, though none of us knew why. Kazarian's lips pressed into a faint smile. "Yes, the Council's ban. They declared our galaxy off-limits 8,000 cycles ago and never returned, extending the prohibition indefinitely. We've been waiting a long time for someone to show up, to see if they'd even remember we exist." Tara, who stood near Veer with her skin flickering pale green, said softly, "But the Council doesn't mention you at all. It's as if you never existed in their records." Hay stepped forward. "They know, or at least they did once. Your high-level archives must contain references to Earth. The Council found us when we were still pre-industrial. They studied us from orbital outposts. Then they made a critical mistake. An observation ship crashed in one of our ancient seas. The survivors tried to hide, but knowledge inevitably slipped out. Humanity learned from them technology, mathematics, even glimpses of the Council's star maps. The Council realized they contaminated a primitive world and sought to erase the evidence." "By erase, Dr. Chun said, voice grim, "we mean orbital strikes. Cities were destroyed, entire cultures lost. But humans have a knack for survival. We adapted, going underground literally and figuratively, reversing whatever alien technology we could salvage. That was many thousands of years ago." Veer felt the blood drain from his face. I had no idea. Are you saying the Council tried to exterminate you?" Kazarian nodded, and almost succeeded, but we fought back. Despite our then primitive state, we advanced quickly once we gleaned enough from the crash survivors and from analyzing Council weapons. When the Council returned in force, humanity had managed to develop rudimentary shielding and some interesting adaptations. A massive battle took place in our solar system about 6,000 cycles ago, leading to a fragile stalemate. The Council realized we were far more resilient than expected, and so a treaty was formed, an agreement to leave us alone for 2,000 years, presumably so both sides could calm tensions. The Council never came back. Instead, they turned that isolation into a permanent ban. Silence clung to the air. Mako, usually irreverent, looked somber. Lana's eyes flickered between the humans and Veer. Ren exhaled as though he'd been punched in the stomach. And all this time, Veer said, voice hollow, "The Council never told anyone. My entire life, I've only heard that the Milky Way was forbidden because it's dangerous. Nobody mentioned a war or attempted genocide. They probably classified it all. Then the knowledge was lost or hidden." "Yes," Kazarian confirmed. "We, however, never forgot. We've spent millennia developing in secret, building our own technologies, some derived from that original Council crash, some purely homegrown. We learned to monitor your transmissions from outposts at the edges of our galaxy. We know exactly how your Council works, which species hold sway, what languages they use. But we remained silent." Hayes's expression was stern. Not all humans were content with waiting. Some wanted a preemptive strike on the Council, fearing that if you returned, you would again attempt our destruction. Thankfully, Earth's diplomatic councils have managed to hold off on that extremist approach, hoping for a better outcome. Veer's mind whirled. He found himself apologizing despite not being personally responsible for any ancient assault. "This is horrifying. I can't possibly express how sorry we are that the Council did this. I promise you, most of us had no idea." Dr. Chun offered a thin, understanding smile. "We suspected as much. Bureaucracies bury their darkest secrets over time." Kazarian tapped a console, and a series of holographic images appeared. Old footage of Council vessels raining energy blasts onto Earth. Glimpses of humans in ragged clothing, salvaging alien tech from crash sites, culminating in that massive space battle near what looked like Jupiter. As far as we know, she said, the original arrangement ended 4,000 cycles ago. The Council was supposed to return, presumably with a more enlightened approach. Instead, they effectively canceled the Milky Way, telling everyone it was deadly. As a result, we continued to develop on our own. Now you see how far we've come. Tara, eyes fixed on holograms, spoke carefully. You've integrated Council technology with your own, going so far as to surpass certain Council systems. I doubt many in Andromeda can comprehend that. Precisely, Hayes said. We were forced to become resourceful. Nothing drives human innovation like adversity. Veer shook his head. So what now? The Council still believes Earth is a forbidden planet. If we go back and reveal you're not only alive but thriving, it might cause an uproar. Kazarian's gaze locked on him. We wanted to go back with us by your side. Make them confront what they did. Officially, Earth was never recognized as a Council member. We'd like that to change. That's a tall order, Lana interjected. Even if we manage to reach the Council chambers, they might declare war upon seeing humans, or arrest you on the spot. Hayes shrugged. We know the risks, but we prefer a diplomatic approach first. If that fails, well, humanity is prepared to defend itself. But we'd rather not continue living in isolation. In the hush that followed, Veer became acutely aware of the weight of destiny pressing down on him. It was not so long ago that he defied the Council simply for the sake of curiosity, and now he was face to face with the truth behind 8,000 years of secrecy. The gravity of this possibility, a formal reemergence of humanity in galactic affairs, threatened to shake the entire Council to its core. He glanced at his crew. Mako gave a subtle nod, the kind that said he was ready to fight if need be. Lana's eyes shone with concern, but also a hint of acceptance. Tara's skin glowed in a rainbow pattern of fascination and alarm. Ren exhaled sharply, as though acknowledging the point of no return. All right, Veer said. I'll do it, but I have no official authority with the Council. Now, I've disobeyed them. At best, I can try to get us an audience. They might lock me up, throw away the key. Kazarian extended her hand, a gesture that was alien to Veer, yet he understood the intention. We'll stand with you. We only ask that you give us a chance to be heard. He clasped her hand awkwardly. Very well. We'll need a plan to get you past the Council's border defenses. The boundless curiosity is currently compromised, but perhaps we can use a Terran vessel. Hayes nodded. We have a diplomatic ship outfitted with advanced cloaking and quantum displacement drives, much faster than your standard technology. We prefer to keep the boundless curiosity as a sign of good faith, and also as a bit of insurance. You can pick it up later. Veer tensed at the implication that they'd be holding his ship hostage, but he saw the logic. Fair enough. They spent days preparing for departure. Mako and Lana coordinated with Terran security to ensure no further misunderstandings. Dr. Chun worked closely with Run on calibrating navigational charts that bridged the gap from Earth to Andromeda. Tara spent hours with Terran scientists, comparing notes on exotic energy signatures, neural interface technology, and the biology of hundreds of Council species. She returned each evening with her skin glowing bright, brimming with excitement. Veer found a quiet moment to stand by one of Starbase Artemis's massive viewports, gazing down at Earth. He saw swirling clouds, wide oceans, pinpricks of city lights. This was the planet whose ancestors had nearly been exterminated by the Council. Now, those same people commanded a technology powerful enough to overthrow Council ships. There was a certain poetic irony in that. Commander Hayes approached, her stride confident, posture straight. Captain, she said, I wanted to check on you. You've had a lot dumped on your shoulders. He let out a soft chuckle. That's an understatement. When I set off, I wanted to solve a mystery. I never expected to find an entire civilization with a vendetta against my government. Her eyes narrowed slightly. It's not a vendetta, at least not for those of us leading Earth's diplomatic efforts. We just refuse to hide. We want a real place in the galactic community, or if not that, at least an honest reckoning. The Council tried to destroy us once. If they can't accept us now, We might have to force them to. Vida hesitated. I hope it won't come to that. The council has many faults, but not everyone is malicious. Often, it's ignorance or fear. Maybe we can break that cycle. Maybe, she agreed. But either way, we won't hide in our galaxy anymore. And we do appreciate that you broke their rules to come find us. He nodded. Together, they watched Earth rotating below in a peaceful dance. He imagined how it must have felt, centuries ago, for humans to see council ships bombarding them from above, forcing them to scramble for their very survival. Trauma, so severe, often shapes a civilization in unpredictable ways. In humans, it had apparently fostered resilience, creativity, and caution. And now, the time had come to see what that meant for Andromeda at large. When the day of departure arrived, the Terran diplomat, a sleek starship bristling with advanced technology, waited in the docking bay. Its hull gleamed with stealth panels, layered with nanite-based armor. Inside, Earth's official delegation busied themselves with final checks. Hayes would serve as military liaison. Kazarian had chosen to remain behind and manage Earth's overall strategic posture, leaving Dr. Chen to fill the role of scientific and diplomatic advisor. A small security team accompanied them, each operative wearing discreet armor and carrying personal defense weapons. Veer and his crew boarded, feeling a mix of apprehension and awe. Even Run, who'd prided himself on mastering the boundless Curiosity systems, admitted the Terran diplomat's controls were like something out of a futuristic dream. The quantum displacement drive apparently worked by folding space in ways council scientists had barely theorized, promising faster transit. This was yet another reason the council's ban might have been perpetuated, the fear that humans would surpass everyone technologically. They launched from Starbase Artemis in a silent burst, the ship slipping through detection grids as if they weren't even there. Once they cleared Earth's gravitational field, Hayes engaged the drive, and the stars outside elongated into hazy lines. The jump to intergalactic space happened in moments. Veer marveled at how smooth the transition felt. Picking up no pursuers, said one of the Terran security officers. Our stealth signature appears intact. Let's hope it stays that way, Lannis said. Because once we get close to Andromeda, we'll have council patrols to deal with. You might not find them so easy to fool if they're specifically looking for us. Dr. Chen gave a wry smile. We'll manage. Your friend Mako is quite enthused about any potential conflict with council border forces, but hopefully it won't come to that. It took only a few days to traverse what had taken the Boundless Curiosity weeks. Each day, they refined their approach, deciding to slip in near the council's outer network of sensor buoys. Run and Dr. Chun worked together to alter identification codes. With Terran infiltration software and knowledge gleaned from council transmissions, they forged a plausible set of registry signals that suggested a legitimate research vessel returning from a fringe expedition. Along the way, Veer wrestled with the uncertainty of his fate. If the council recognized him, he'd be arrested as a fugitive. If they discovered humans aboard, the reaction might be even worse. Yet he clung to the belief that truth would ultimately prove more powerful than any lie. They had to face the consequences of the ancient atrocity, or it would fester forever. The moment they crossed into Andromeda's territory, alarms flashed on the comm panel. A council outpost demanded identification. Chen triggered the doctored codes, speaking calmly in Universal Standard. Veer's pulse raced. The seconds dragged on until the outpost replied with an automated acceptance. The Terran diplomat was cleared to proceed. No one cheered, for they all knew the real challenge lay ahead. Galactic Central Station, the heart of Council authority. Soon, the station's silhouette came into view, a massive ring structure orbiting a shimmering star, teeming with traffic. Veer had once called it the Jewel of Andromeda, home to the grandest diplomatic ceremonies, a place of wonder and unity. Now it might become the site of history's most shocking revelation, or a catastrophic confrontation. They docked without incident, thanks to the forged clearance. Crew after crew bustled around them in the docking bay, none suspecting the visitors were from a world the council had tried to bury in secrecy. Lana distributed hoods and cloaks to the Terran delegates, hoping to at least get them to the council halls before a scene erupted. Mako walked near Commander Hayes, exchanging banter about potential threats. They managed to weave through corridors into the main reception area. The architecture soared overhead, columns inlaid with precious metals from across council space. Guards wearing ceremonial armor stood at intervals. Immense holographic banners displayed rotating symbols of the 342 recognized species. None of them represented Earth. Grand Arbiter Klex was in session, addressing some routine matter about trade disputes. The large chamber was filled with delegates, ambassadors, and aides. Veer signaled his crew to remain calm. He inhaled, bracing himself, then stepped forward onto the dais. The hush that followed was immediate, for many recognized him. The captain who had vanished with his ship, rumored to have broken the supreme directive. Viv Svalovid, Grand Arbiter Klex, ministers of the council. I have returned. A ripple of consternation spread through the crowd. Some shouted for security. Others whispered, uncertain. The tall, robed figure of Klex slammed his gavel, cracking the stone dais. Veer Tamashi, you are in violation of the council's highest law. Guards, seize him. Several armed guards moved forward. Mako tensed, but Veer raised a hand, halting any resistance. He allowed them to grip his arms, though he held his head high. Lana stepped beside him, ignoring the guards' warnings. Commander Hayes and Dr. Chen remained hidden in the crowd for the moment, awaiting Veer's signal. I stand accused, Veer said. But before you imprison me, let me speak. I broke the ban on the Milky Way. I ventured there, saw what has been hidden from us for 8,000 cycles. And I learned the reason behind that ban is far darker than any of us imagined. Silence, spat one of the ministers. Your defiance endangers us all. Klextu's eyes narrowed. We have renewed that ban 347 times for good reason. Because it must be dangerous, yes? Wir did. But you never told us exactly why. And the truth is, it wasn't the galaxy that was dangerous. It was our ancestors who committed an atrocity. An attempt to wipe out a fledgling species called humanity. A collective gasp swept the room. Klextu's gavel fell again. That is enough. You spew treason. The archives do not speak of such a species. Because it was erased from history, Veer said, voice ringing with conviction. I have proof. Let them step forward. At his cue, Commander Hayes and Dr. Chen emerged from the throng, standing tall in the center of the chamber. The sight of them caused an immediate uproar. Some recognized them as humans from old legends, no doubt. Others had no clue who these newcomers were, only that they were unannounced intruders. They are from Earth, Veer declared. The same Earth that the Council once bombed from orbit. They survived. They advanced. And they have been watching us. They have technology beyond most of our understanding. And they have come in peace, seeking recognition and truth. Impossible, roared Klex. Guards, arrest them as well. This is an invasion. Hayes remained impressively calm, though Veer could see tension in her jaw. Dr. Chen stepped forward, raising a device that projected holographic records. Images of ancient council ships, bombardments of Earth's surface, signatures that matched council weapon logs. The crowd fell silent as the undeniable proof flickered before their eyes. Klex seemed momentarily speechless. Others shouted in alarm. Diplomatic Minister Zalvandra, face contorted in rage, demanded an explanation. The guards hesitated, uncertain whether to follow Klextu's order or to heed the evident shock among the delegates. Hayes spoke in an even tone, her universal standard nearly flawless. We are humanity. We once encountered your council in a time of aggression. We lost millions, yet we learned. We do not seek revenge, only acknowledgement. We want to end this cycle of fear and isolation. If you doubt our words, examine these data logs. They match your own classified archives, if you dare open them. Some delegates squirmed. Others stared, horrified by the scale of the bombings shown in the holograms. The sense of betrayal spread as many realized the council they served had concealed a genocide. Clexta tried once more to regain control, slamming his gavel. "This is a deception," he cried. "Do not let them sow chaos. The ban was in place for our protection. They are a threat only to your lies," retorted Hayes. "We've had centuries to strike back if we wished, but we did not. We extended your ban because we hoped you would eventually come to us in good faith. You never did, and so we waited until Captain Tamashi arrived." A tall, crystalline figure, Fleet Admiral Bronx, rose from the crowd. His voice ground out. "Is this what you kept from us, Clex-2? That we nearly exterminated an entire people in secret? That they might be more advanced than us now?" Factions began to form. Some demanded the immediate resignation of Clex-2 and the heads of the council. Others insisted on a thorough investigation. In the chaos, Veer was released by the confused guards, who no longer knew whom to obey. Mako placed himself protectively near Hayes, well aware that any one of the more reactionary delegates might attempt violence. Over the next tense hour, the chamber nearly devolved into a riot. Only when Lana, Tara, and a handful of calmer delegates managed to arrange a more orderly discussion did the clamor subside. Hayes repeated her message. Humanity sought official recognition or, at the very least, an honest confrontation of the past so they might coexist without fear. As more delegates read the data logs, whispered confessions passed among them. Some recalled hearing legends of a savage race once discovered, which turned out to be unstoppable. Others admitted that top-secret archives might verify everything. Eventually, Clexta's posture collapsed, shoulders slumped. He peered at Veer with an expression tinged with grudging respect and despair. "You have no idea what you've unleashed, Captain. This knowledge will tear the council apart." Veer's voice was firm. "Truth can be destructive, but ignorance is worse. We can't keep living under falsehood." A period of emergency negotiations followed. Those with strong anti-human sentiments bristled, but they found themselves outnumbered by delegates who realized that an advanced humanity, armed with centuries of hidden growth, could pose a colossal threat if spurned. Likewise, many recognized that forging a new alliance might bring unprecedented scientific and cultural benefits. In a smaller, more private assembly, Clex-2 finally conceded that the Council's forebears had intentionally expunged records of Earth to maintain stability. "They believed if no one knew about you," he admitted to Hayes, "we could avoid confrontation." But fear lingered. Whenever the ban was up for renewal, references were made to an unspeakable threat in the Milky Way. No details, just the imperative never to return. And so, the myth continued. Hayes regarded him coolly. "We won't disappear again. We expect open dialogue, or Earth will do whatever is necessary to protect itself." The tension in that final ultimatum was impossible to ignore. But Clexta managed a slow nod. "Agreed. We must bring this to the entire council properly. Our laws must be amended to welcome your representatives officially, if that is what the majority decides." From there, events moved rapidly. Delegates drafted proposals. Committees formed to review the ancient data. Civil unrest sparked on some council worlds as the news leaked. Citizens horrified to learn their ancestors had tried to annihilate an innocent species. Many were outraged at the centuries of wasted opportunity. The ruling council members faced calls to resign or stand trial for perpetuating lies. Yet, ironically, the presence of the Terran diplomat in the capital station, demonstrating quiet, disciplined cooperation, lessened immediate fears of second war. Even Mako, who usually thrived on conflict, was relieved that negotiations advanced peacefully. In the midst of that storm of revelations, Veer and his crew received surprising news. They were to be pardoned, recognized for exposing a monumental deception. Some factions within the council even hailed them as heroes who shattered an unjust ban. That concept felt surreal to Veer, who had never imagined that his insubordination could become admired. But gratitude was tempered with caution. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainties. He could sense that not everyone in the council was ready to accept humanity, nor was every human necessarily content with peaceful coexistence. Still, a new chapter had begun. Hayes, Dr. Chun, and a small Terran delegation set up official quarters at Galactic Central Station, engaged in round-the-clock discussions with different alien representatives. Observers from dozens of species arrived to see the rumored humans with their own eyes. Some came with curiosity, others with wariness, but all were enthralled by the prospect of bridging this cosmic gap. Before long, word reached Earth that the Council was drafting a formal invitation for an intergalactic summit. The ban on the Milky Way would be repealed, replaced by guidelines for diplomatic contact. Earth, in turn, would allow limited Council visits, hopefully paving the way for trade, cultural exchange, or joint scientific ventures. The outcome was far from guaranteed, but at least it was no longer a closed door. Late one evening, Veer found himself alone on an observation balcony overlooking the station's rotating ring. He gazed upon the star-dappled void, mind drifting. So much had changed so quickly. He felt a subtle presence at his side and turned to see Commander Hayes, arms folded behind her back. "You did it, Captain," she said softly. "You forced them to open their eyes." "We did it," he corrected. "I only set foot in your galaxy because the Council left me no choice. And if humanity hadn't been prepared to stand up for itself, none of this would matter." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "I suppose that's true. Still, I'm grateful. We've waited thousands of years for a moment like this." Veer studied her face. A moment that could still go terribly wrong. There are factions on both sides who'd prefer a war. She nodded. "True, but at least now we have the chance to prove we're more than the Council's worst assumptions. We can show them our art, our science, our compassion as much as our weapons. Maybe that will be enough." He let out a breath, feeling the magnitude of history swirling around them. "I never thought I'd find something this huge in the Milky Way. Part of me expected cosmic horrors or supernovas. Instead, I found a civilization with a tragic story, forced to become strong and clever, and a council built on half-truths and paranoia." Hayes smirked. "We can be plenty horrifying if we have to be, Captain, but hopefully we'll stay on this path of reconciliation." They stood side by side, gazing at the stars. After a while, she excused herself to return to her delegation. Veer lingered, reflecting on the chain of events that had led him here. He'd broken the Council's greatest rule out of raw curiosity, and it had revealed a secret the galaxy could no longer ignore. He wondered how future generations might judge his actions. Would they call him a traitor, or a visionary, or just a fool who stumbled into the truth? In time, Lana, Mako, Run, and Tara joined him on the balcony, the station's overhead lights casting gentle arcs on the metal deck. Each wore an expression that suggested they too were grappling with what lay ahead. Mako broke the silence first. "Well, that was one hell of a mission. Better than rotting away under the Council's hush-hush censure." Tara's skin glowed in shifting patterns of gold and blue. "We've so much to learn from humanity. Did you see the way their scientists integrated nanite swarms? They've developed entire subfields of engineering we never thought feasible." Hey nodded. "And their starship drive. Impressive. The Council might try to replicate or counter it, but hopefully we'll do so in cooperation, not competition." Lana gave Veer a sidelong look. "We're free now, thanks to that general pardon. But are we going back to normal Council duties? Or is there a new frontier to explore?" Veer ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not sure anything will ever be normal again. Earth is on the verge of joining the galactic community or clashing with it. The Council is in turmoil over revelations of genocide, and we stand at the center of it all." A comfortable silence settled among them, each mind brimming with possibilities. Then Mako snorted a laugh. "Sometimes I miss those quiet days of just scanning nebulae. But hey, if we're going to make waves, might as well make the biggest ones in 8,000 cycles." Veer gazed through the transparent panel into the cosmic sea of stars. He remembered the moment he first set eyes upon the spiral shape of the forbidden galaxy, curiosity burning hot in his chest. Now, that curiosity had changed the fate of civilizations. The Council's greatest secret was unraveling, and humanity, once nearly destroyed, now stood on the precipice of forging alliances or igniting an even larger conflict. Despite the precarious nature of it all, Veer felt a profound sense of hope. Humans had not lashed out with unstoppable vengeance. They had instead seized the chance for diplomacy. The Council's robed bureaucrats, for all their faults, had begun acknowledging the truth and sought a new path forward. Perhaps the future would be shaped not by bans and lies, but by an honest reckoning with the past. He closed his eyes for a moment, envisioning Earth and Andromeda forging real ties, scientists exchanging knowledge, artists sharing creations, new star routes opening between the galaxies. He saw a possibility of growth, of bridging old wounds. But he also knew the path to that brighter tomorrow would be fraught with challenges. When he opened his eyes, he turned to his crew. "Shall we head back to the Diplomat? Tomorrow, the Council reconvenes, and we need to be ready. Who knows how many hours of debate, motions, and procedures stand between us and real progress." Lana sighed theatrically. The price we pay for historic breakthroughs, endless meetings. Tara's glow flickered with amusement. "I'll bring my data sets, in case anyone doubts humanity's scientific achievements." Mako rapped his knuckles together. "And I'll stand by, just in case. I still remember how quickly those humans took our ship. Let's hope the Council doesn't do something stupid." Pain, Smyuggle. Stupidity is common currency in politics, but we'll manage. Veer led them away from the observation balcony, his heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. He was about to face the next stage of negotiations, bridging the gap between an ancient secret and a possible alliance. Yes, the Milky Way had been off limits. Yes, he had shattered that restriction. But in doing so, he had brought to light the unimaginable strength and resilience of humanity, a species forged in the fires of near genocide, now prepared to stand among the stars with pride rather than fear. As they departed the chamber, an aide hurried by with a message that several key council members wanted a private audience with Commander Hayes to discuss possible terms for Earth's membership. Another aide breathlessly asked Veer if he would testify about what he'd seen on Earth, its culture, technology, population. The swirl of activity was dizzying, the ramifications impossible to measure. Yet a feeling of promise hung in the air, as though centuries of injustice might finally be addressed. In the corridor, they passed large, intricate murals depicting the glorious unity of the Andromeda species. Once, Veer had admired those images without question. Now, he saw them as incomplete. A new face needed to be added: humanity. And if these negotiations succeeded, perhaps entire new murals would be painted to commemorate the day the Council's ban ended, and the Milky Way was no longer a forbidden galaxy, but a fully recognized partner. He paused to take one last look at the mosaic that showed swirling galaxies. In the center, stylized in bright gold, was Andromeda. Off to the side, a smaller swirl labeled M31. That swirl would no longer be overshadowed by fear. He could almost picture a second swirl labeled Milky Way, set alight with the presence of Earth, bridging the cosmos. The official motto of the Council was etched along the top: "One cosmos, many voices." Veer found himself smiling at the irony. For so many cycles, one voice had been silenced. Not anymore. Stepping away from the mural, he joined his crew and their human allies, moving deeper into the station's corridors. No one could say how the Council as a whole would respond once the initial shock wore off, but the future had already changed irrevocably. The Milky Way was off-limits no longer. Humanity had returned to the grand stage of interstellar politics, and they were far from helpless newcomers. The seeds of cooperation might bear wondrous fruit, or the seeds of conflict might sprout anew. But at least now, the galaxy would face the truth of its past. As they walked, Commander Hayes caught up to Veer, offering a small grin. "You must be exhausted by all this." "Exhausted, yes. Yet strangely energized, too," he admitted. "I can't pretend to know how everything will unfold, but I feel a sense of possibility." Hayes glanced at the swirling star patterns overhead. "You took a risk by defying your council. You probably upended your entire life. I can't promise. Earth's relationship with the Council will be easy. But if you ever want to visit Earth in a more official capacity, I'm sure we can arrange it. You never did get to explore the planet properly, did you? He chuckled. Not exactly. Next time, I'd prefer not to be shot at. She smirked. We'll make sure that doesn't happen. They continued on, a group composed of humans and alien explorers marching side by side toward an uncertain future. The hustle of delegates and officers parted around them like a tide. The moment felt electric. If once, eons ago, the council had come with bombs, now at least they had arrived with words. Perhaps that was the greatest sign of how much both sides had changed. Veer thought of his old illusions about the council's infallibility, the weight of centuries of tradition that said, the Milky Way is off limits. Tradition gave way to reality here, in these corridors, where living proof stood clad in a Terran uniform. If such transformation could happen in a single day, who was to say what wonders or challenges might come next? Behind him, Mako was regaling Dr. Chun with stories of the boundless curiosities near escapes over the weeks. Ahead, Terra and Run were trading theories with Terran scientists about gravitational wave manipulation. Lana and a Terran security officer discussed the structure of Earth's government, from the old nations to the new unification. Everywhere, new bonds were forming, small threads weaving into a tapestry that no council rule could tear apart. They reached the wide doors that led to the next conference hall, where even more delegates waited. Veer paused. He straightened his jacket, took one last breath, and stepped forward, his crew and their new human allies beside him. He remembered the feeling of crossing the boundary into the forbidden galaxy, the anxious thrill that had coursed through his veins. That crossing had been both terrifying and wondrous. Now, in a different way, he was crossing another boundary, one that separated a past built on fear and deceit from a future brimming with hope and danger alike. No matter what happened next, the rule was broken. The Milky Way had been reintroduced to Andromeda, and that single act, spurred by curiosity and a refusal to accept empty prohibitions, might ultimately reshape the fate of two galaxies forever.